Thank you for being here, and I'm here with the great, amazing Gary Peters, who led the DSCC in such a great way, and he's been terrific. So they say all good things come to those who wait, and this outcome is absolutely worth the wait. After 1 year, 10 months, and 17 days of the longest 50-50 Senate in history, 51, a slim majority. That is great, and we are so happy about it. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Raphael Warnock. I spoke to him this morning again on running, and he'll be up here later today, on running just a great race. Strong, inspiring, unifying, never daunted. I remember calling him the day the vote came in the general election. And even though he was disappointed that he came close, but not at 50, and he'd have to run again, he said, I'm raring to go, and we're going to win the runoff. And, of course, he did by not 0.5% or 1%, but by close to 3%. And it was because he did an amazing thing. He was just a person who had great faith. He had great strength. He had great conviction. He had great caring. He's a unique man who has a great future. And I was brought to tears last night watching him tell his story in his concluding line in the sentence where he talked about his mom. And he said she grew up in the 50s picking someone else's cotton and somebody else's tobacco. And last night, this is so touching. Every time I read it, I get choked up. Last night, she helped pick her son to be a United States Senator. Only in America. Only in America. You know, 4 years ago, I began recruiting candidates in Georgia. And my first choice was obviously my friend, Stacey Abrams. She said, I don't want to run for Senate, but there's someone as good as me, if not better, Raphael Warnock. And it took me a while to even convince him to meet with me. He was very busy with the job he had at the Ebenezer Baptist Church as pastor of one of the leading pulpits in America. The minute I met him, I finally met him, I said, this guy is special. If there's anyone who can win in Georgia, which was then regarded as a red state, it is this guy. And it took a few more months of persuasion. I had everyone in the Sun call him. Al Sharpton was on TV today mentioning that. And thank God he ran. And of course, the people of Georgia are better off. The Democratic Senate caucus is better off. And America is better off because he ran and won. And as I said, he's going to have a great, great future. So that's first and foremost. Raphael Warnock, an amazing man who has now had 4 victories in 2 years in what was regarded as a red state. And one more point I'd make, I give lots of credit to Stacey Abrams. She and her organizations helped take a state that was very red and made it purple. And it's a lesson for all of us. You don't just come into an election 3 months or 6 months before, but you build organizational strength day after day and year after year. Okay. Second, I'm going to talk about why did Democrats defy history in these midterms? As you know, we did. It's the first time since 1934 where every Democratic incumbent won with the party and with being the party in power. That hasn't happened since 1934, that every incumbent of the party in power won. Why'd that happen? Well, first, because we had great candidates, not just Raphael Warnock. Gary and I probably talked to every one of the candidates. I probably did every single day. And their strength and their vitality was just incredible. And they're just indomitable. Every time there was a setback, none of them said, oh, God, it's terrible. They just moved forward. But there are 2 other points that I would make here, why we won. Why did things change? Why, back in April, when everyone thought we would lose seats in the Senate, why did we win? And I think 2 things happened, and I'll take it in time order. First, in May and June, the public began to realize how far right these MAGA Republicans had gone. The Dobbs decision was the crystallization of that, of course, when people said, wow, these MAGA Republicans are serious about turning the clock all the way back. But then there were the two other Supreme Court decisions on concealed carry and on limiting what we could do to stop coal plants from poisoning the atmosphere. There were the January 6th hearings. I think they had an important effect because people didn't just read about something that happened once, but every night they saw on TV these hooligans, these insurrectionists being violent, beating up police officers. I was very touched meeting the Sitnicks yesterday. Mrs. Sitnick went to Madison High School, and we talked about that. And they saw all of that, and they said, wow. And then the third thing is they saw that the Republican leaders wouldn't even attack this craziness. And so about 10 to 15% of the electorate, Republicans who were not MAGA Republicans, who were not Trump Republicans, people who said, well, I'm a Reagan Republican, I'm a Bush Republican, but this Trump Republican isn't for me, and independents who leaned conservative and tended to vote Republican started saying, this Republican Party isn't for me. But in June still, they held doubts about the Democratic Party. Was the Democratic Party talking about things they didn't care about or didn't like? And could they get anything done? And the turning point really occurred that summer, this summer, where we passed 6 major bills, 5 bipartisan, all of which affected people's lives. They were the things people wanted us to talk about. Making the environment better, dealing with the high cost of prescription drugs, helping our veterans who were unduly human, dealing with gun safety, getting American jobs here, not in China, with new industries in the CHIPS legislation, expanding health care. And they said, whoa, this Democratic Party is the party that I like. And by September 1st, I thought we'd win the Senate. We'd keep the Senate. Because the combination of those two things was the powerful 1-2 punch that made us defy all the odds and provided the right nutrient agar so our great candidates, both incumbent and non-incumbent, could prevail. And don't take my word for it. This is what I read Lindsey Graham said this morning. He said, quote, Democrats have done a pretty good job of picking issues that motivate their base and have wider support among the public. We, the Republicans, need to be doing the same thing. I think a lot of people in the Republican Party don't see us doing it emphatically as the Democrats. It's one of the few times I'll quote Lindsey Graham with approval, but he said it. Okay. The practical effects of the 51-seat majority, it's big, it's significant, it gives us we can breathe a sigh of relief. Obviously, judges and nominees will be a lot easier to put on the bench. We are so proud of our record with judges. It's one of the most significant things, maybe the most even, things we've done. As you know, we put on the bench 2/3 are women, half are people of color. There are more black women on the federal bench now than there has ever, I think more today than all the others combined before we got into the majority. Biden became president, and we got into the majority. And they're people who they know what people's lives are like. They're not just corporate lawyers or prosecutors. They're public aid, immigration lawyers and consumer advocates and legal aid people, public defenders. So the bench is looking more like America. Now it's going to be easier. So are the nominees. It's been amazing how Republicans have been able to use the 50-50 Senate to procedurally hold up so many appointments. It's going to be a lot quicker, swifter, and easier. It's also going to mean that our committee chairs have more flexibility on legislation. The number of times chairs came to me and said, I'd like to move this bill forward, but in a 10-10 committee, I can't do it. It'll be tied. That's all going to change because we'll have the advantage on every committee. It's going to mean that our committees will have greater oversight ability. subpoena power. And people say, well, it's the Biden administration. Oh, no, no, no. Subpoena power can deal with corporate corruption and inequities and other problems throughout the country. And it gives us just a lift. The fact that we got the 51 votes gives us just a great feeling, enthusiasm, unity, encouragement in that way. And let me just add, in addition, our caucus has been deeply grateful for Vice President Harris's constant schedule juggling to preside over a 50-50 Senate. She did a great job. We're appreciative. It's part of her job. But I think she's done a lot of other good things, and now she's going to have a little more time to do those things because the need for her to be here will be less. Next, one of the things I hope to do as leader is, even in this new electoral climate, is reach out to Republicans. There are a good number of Republicans in the Senate and the House who are not MAGA Republicans, who know that if the Republican Party follows the hard right and the extreme members in their caucuses, that they'll continue to lose ground as they've lost ground in 2020 and they lost ground in 2022 and in 2018 in the House. And it is my intention to reach out to them and say how can we work in a bipartisan way. And you say, oh, that'll never happen. Well, look at what happened this summer with 50-50. Of the 6 major bills we passed, 5 were bipartisan. And it wasn't that every Republican went along with us, but most did, or enough did. We are going to keep doing that. Turn left, Republicans. Or at least don't turn hard right. It would be a more appropriate, thing to do. But that's very, very, that's very, very important to us to get things done. We want to get things done. And if we can get some bipartisan things done, it will, of course, be better for the country. But it'll be better for the Republican Party, but we'll have a strong, healthy Republican Party that believes in democracy and is willing to get things done as well. And the final thing I talk about before I'm a little exuberant today, I hope you understand that. But the final thing that I would say is this. This election, both in November and now here on December the 6th, shows that Americans believe in democracy. During some of the darker times, people said, "Ooh, the democracy, I don't know if it has many days left." But both in micro, what happened in Georgia, despite the efforts of Republican legislature to make it harder to vote, our people voted. People voted. Georgians voted. They said, we're not going to let these barriers stand in our way, even if we have to wait online in the rain. But on a larger level, overall, the American people rejected so many of this MAGA extremism, both in knocking down and not voting for some of these extreme MAGA candidates. But as I said, many of the voters in the middle came over to us because they were worried what the Republican Party under MAGA control would do for democracy. The roots of democracy are deep. This 200-plus year noble experiment is not a fluke. It's hanging around for a long time, as long as we fight for it, and we'll continue to do that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.